We are following breaking news out of Redford Township. That's where 3 people have died in a crash. 7 Action News reporter Naya Harden is live at the scene with the very latest. Naya.
Well, this happened around 2 o'clock this morning, according to Redford Township Police. They tell us that it was right here on West Chicago and Telegraph where a Kia was actually driving southbound. Witnesses say that the car was driving about 100 miles per hour. That's when they tell us that that car hit a pole in the median right here on West Chicago. It then crossed the street, hitting another pole, the pole that actually is connected to all these traffic signals up here. And then that's when we're told that somehow it mangled around that pole. Now, 3 females, we are told, have died from this accident. They don't have any other witnesses that saw the accident, and so they're asking that if anyone saw this gray Kia that was driving in this area, to let them know, to contact them, because they're trying to just get a better idea of how this all happened. We don't have any ages, we don't have any names yet. We're hoping to get that later on, but we are told that this area is going to be closed for at least 3 to 4 hours, and so they want to advise people to stay out of this area as they continue to investigate this accident. Naya Harden, 7 Action News.
On March 29th, 2018, my mother, my sister, and my sister's fiance were all killed tragically in a car accident. I was forced to go home and deal with what I had been running away from for the last 17 years. I had spent most of my childhood in foster care, and I had found my family when I was 18 years old on Facebook. I had spent the last several years rebuilding the relationship with them. The funerals destroyed me, but it also gave me the opportunity to reconnect with a lot of other family members that I had. A lot happened during these funerals. Fights, makeups, breakups, the police were called. I want to share this story with you. This is my story. Let's start from the beginning.
Searching for answers. Tonight, the family of the woman killed in a traffic accident in Redford Township desperately asking for witnesses to come forward.
I know that will help my brothers and I have closure, just to know what happened in their last couple moments.
Mia Magoo, her daughter Jatia Magoo, and Jatia's girlfriend Nika Watson were all killed in the wreck yesterday. Police say the car was speeding down Telegraph before it went airborne and crashed into a pole at West Chicago. Karlos says the women lived in Muskegon but came to Detroit to support his brother Tim at a music event. These pictures were taken less than an hour before the deadly crash.
The people say she was flying 100 miles. That's not normal. Like, she's not just driving it 100 miles down the main street. She's just not driving 100 miles, period. Like, so we still trying to figure out what happened.
The family set up a GoFundMe page to help with burial expenses. Investigators are reviewing surveillance video and say it could be several weeks for toxicology reports to come back to see if alcohol or drugs were factors in what happened.
It turned out that my sister's alcohol level was in fact 3 times over the legal limit, and she did have other drugs in her system, and the police just considered it an accident due to drugs and alcohol. Unfortunately, the lives of my mother and my sister's fiance were taken at the same time as hers. My brother, Tim, he, during the funeral, of course, struggled because we were all in a difficult position. But I have never felt like I felt during this funeral. I was told by several people, because I was adopted and because I wasn't as close as them to my mom and my sister, I was told that it didn't affect me as much. It went even as far, I was told that I wasn't even part of the family, and this was by close family members. I tried to not take it personal. I tried to take it with a grain of salt, knowing that we were all emotional, that we were all suffering, and that we were all hurt. So I supported my family the best way I could. I started a GoFundMe, and with the help of my friends, families, and supporters, we were able to raise enough money to have a proper burial for my mom and my sister. But like every sad thing that happens in life, there's also joyous things that come from it. I was able to learn from my family, to hear old stories. Here are some of the stories.
Damn.
Y'all could never feel my pain. And y'all know who me and deal with, but that's my life, man. And all my nephews and nieces, and he got a sister. Kiana, my baby, when she was little, I was the first motherfucker on Juwan bike, cut her leg up. She was like 2 or 3, trying to hang out on piers and shit, riding on a sidebar. My little motherfucking niece.
Well, you almost got killed that day.
You know what I'm saying? Dumbass shit, you know what I'm saying? Dad, best uncle in the fucking world, dog. Look, the night he died, he promised me, Mia, Tyrone, Tanya on his bike, because the nigga was a gangster, sticking up dope houses. Only thing, say they went in a building, and this the spot, but they got another trap house right here.
Right.
So when they hit the spot, coming down the hallway, only thing they did smart was shoot the lights out. But they still got killed, because they was in the middle of a shootout. But that nigga promised us all bikes. Everything he promised us, he brought it to that house on Whitney, where we growing up at, Whitney and Linwood, nigga. NFL for life. I am 1966, Whitney and Linwood.
I quickly learned that I had lived a different life from my family. I had been separated from them since I was 7 years old. And the stories that they were telling, I had no recognition with. Even the lifestyle that they were living, I had no recognition with. And yet, it all seemed so familiar. It was great hearing stories like these, even though they seemed to tend to be violent. But hey, that's what's growing up in the 313 of Detroit is. It's violence. It's survival. It's hustle. Kind of sums me up. But this is something that I will never forget ever in my life. A Black family funeral is a time for all the family members, even if you've never met, to come together and to look through photos. And it was fantastic seeing all of these new faces. I even got to spend time with my father.
Hey, dope down there, nigga. Don't touch me now. I'm mad.
Oh, that's where your son get it from.
Man, fuck
he
that.
Said, he got mad. He said, don't touch me. Oh, I see where you get it from.
But shut up, though.
Man, you shut the fuck up.
I'm gonna tell y'all how scenario. Look.
Like, bitch, nigga, this. He's like,
Yeah,
you call me one more
you
bitch.
called him,
Dude,
right?
you call me one. I was like,
Bitch,
you bitch ass old man, old bones break fast. Old bones break. He was like, you ain't nothing but a little faggot. And Tim was minding his own business until he said that. Until he got up to say.
Fuck up my whole bitch! You gonna talk to my brother like that? You fuck up my whole bitch!
I was like, he scared me to get called.
You call him a bitch, he's a bitch, he gonna be a bitch, and when he be a bitch, he
Okay.
good.
Guess what?
When I say that, he gonna be a
Carlos,
bitch.
take the
Hey, don't
talk.
even talk to
Let
me.
me tell y'all this first thought. Look, we're here. Look, we're here. Look. The nigga came to Carlos say, look, how much money you got? Carlos out here, that nigga, I got ranked. Carlos right in the kitchen. Bitch, I paid right here. If I wish you a video, Carlos not trying to swing on niggas. He talking about, call me out of bitch. Carlos say, you bitch ass bitch. Then Tim came, and look, Tim cleaned out. He said, all you motherfuckers get out my house.
Do you know your daddy ain't wrapped too tight?
I'm not wrapped that tight. Give a fuck. I show that bitch nigga a bitch man. I'm not wrapped that tight. You gotta be a little bit loose.
Yeah, he's very loose.
I don't give a fuck.
I'll
put him in.
I'll
give him to his cousin.
It didn't matter if I had been gone for almost 20 years. I had seemed to assimilate. I had seemed to have been part of the family again. And it is so sad that it took a tragic accident, like losing my mom and my sister, for me to feel this feeling again, a feeling that I had been missing for so long. We went to the mall and we decided to get clothing for my mom and my sister for the funeral. We spent more than several days laughing, talking, crying, going through all of the different emotions of grief. Man, this is quite the experience. My mother's insurance decided that they were not going to cover her funeral expenses. So my brother and I were out of luck, and we depended on you guys to help us. Fortunately, we had for help, and then unfortunately, we didn't get quite enough.
I was signing off. You were signing for
That's
the insurance.
For a release. That was a release.
A release. See, but they were arguing.
And they said it multiple times. That's what that was.
I didn't hear.
We left and came. I ain't about to go there with you. Don't matter.
See, when you trying to get up,
how long can you hold?
You have to, you know,
Auntie, if my mom insurance can't cover it, my mom barely had a job. My sister had no job. No one in the family has a job except for me and this boy right here, which we can't come up with $6,000.
No one in the family. I've been working for 24 years.
All right, are you gonna help us with this bill? So we can't come up with the money. There's no point of moving the date. Just have them release the bodies to the city, and they can just put them in the city graveyard.
They don't release them to the city.
That's why I asked.
To be completely honest,
what has to happen is I'd have to get with Mr. Cloro.
Yeah.
So we gotta call
and
him back.
Here's the thing. The thing is, we didn't sign for anything. So to be completely honest, your father needs to come up here, Grandpa needs to come up here, and they need to be.
I signed these papers right here.
Well, Grandpa needs to be here regardless. I don't. What do you do with two bodies that they obviously have to be in here?
Papers, Tim?
The arrangement papers, I signed them.
Well, who's responsible? That's what I want to ask you. For the funeral. I have to call my attorney.
So. Insurance is not assignable.
Well, did they give a reason why it wasn't assignable?
Because it's
pardons.
Did they give a reason?
4 months.
It's too soon.
So the 2-year contingency.
Yeah, it's too soon.
Wow.
Okay, well, I mean, there's nothing we can do right now. There's no point in making a new date. We have to figure out who gets the body released. The city's gonna have to.
Don't release the body.
They can't just stay here. They can't stay here. Ultimately,
that's why you say you got to talk to Mr. Crow.
The government.
You got to call back and talk to Mr. Cloro.
The government's gonna. I'll call back and talk to them, but pretty much the city will take them back, and the city will just cremate them.
But you can't. How do you?
The city, you just can't, because you just can't have dead bodies running around. We don't have no funds to do no cremations. I can do one cremation for $1,500. That's how much money I have right now.
Well, that's it.
That's it.
And it's probably gonna be coming out of more than $1,500, right? Like.
I don't have $3,000 for a cremation for both of them. So.
Your granddad could probably cover the.
But I wish I had any money. Cause
yeah,
my
before
sister,
you
I
guys
would
make
want her to
a
cremate.
hasty decision,
yeah,
once
right.
you guys,
that's way too much
just kind of
I
talk
don't.
to him, and if you have to change the date, you just have to change the date.
Right.
Don't make hasty decisions.
That's what I try to tell them, and they're upset. I understand that, but it's going to work out. It's
let
the
me
way.
just say this to you all: it's not just your family; it happens with a lot of families. It happens.
It happens. This ain't the first time.
I can believe that because I've heard it.
They have to cancel dates, so don't get overstressed. At the end of the day, y'all all still gonna be family, and that's what has to happen.
That's the thing, though. We spent 18 years in foster care. We just found our mom, and as far as I'm concerned, thank you for your time. I will probably, if Grandpa can do the other $1,500, I can probably come up with the other $1,500. We'll come up with another day. I'm tired of being in this room. Are we free to go right now?
Yes, sure.
Thank you. We weren't able to come up with the other $1,500. In fact, things got so bad that we went back to the funeral home and tried to negotiate a price, and the police ended up being called after they refused to transfer the bodies of our loved ones to another funeral home who was willing to pay. Who was willing to freaking just take the money that we had and weren't. I understand that funeral is a business, but this funeral home, Clora's funeral home, they were disgusting people, and it got to the point where we ended up having to call the police to see if we can get our family's bodies.
They're telling us they're not going to release their bodies at all to us, even though the contact person is here, unless we give them $1,700 a body, they're not going to release it.
But that's not in the contract.
And that's not where it's nowhere in the contract at all. So. Even though, so they don't like consider that as a hostage situation or nothing like that.
Nope.
With them, and then we can call the police still. So
who you talk to, Maurice?
Yeah, he talked to your brother. That's who I was just on the phone.
So we can pay him right now for everything.
I know. I don't see why we was. That's because he's dealing with his father.
Oh, y'all talking? Y'all ain't never talked to Major?
No.
Major never got on the phone. They sent another director.
Dealing with his father.
And he called the other director. He gave us a number. We were supposed to be calling Major, and he said that Major, when we called the number, he got back on the phone and then told me, "Ma'am, you ain't even in the contract."
Come on, we going in the second car.
I'm going in a limousine. What are you talking about?
That's where I'm going in.
Which car are you going in? Okay, you go with him. You going in limo?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So through all of the fighting, the police being called, the name calling, we were finally able to put our mother and our sister down to rest the way that they deserved. And even on top of that, all of our families and our friends came together to have a fantastic repast so we could all have one meal as a family together. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. But just like everything else that comes out of Detroit, wherever there's love, there is also fucking drama.
Ain't nobody listening, right? I'll be arguing.
Corey's been in a fight. Look at his wife.
I was waiting for the blow. World star.
Black funerals. Hashtag black funerals.
People fighting over fried chicken. Do you see my face? Do you see the way I'm looking at these people? Do you see this? Like, look at the way I'm looking at these people. It is hilarious. Sometimes you hate them, sometimes you love them, but you can't have family without I love you at the end of it. This is mine. Love them, hate them. These are who I'm from. This is who I belong with. This is my family funeral.